Lee smacks the boy on the back, telling him to cheer up so Cynthia can rest in peace. But Vivia just sighs and says he should at least be allowed to feel a little sad for a while. The following day at the Night Mist Troops HQ, a man calls over a girl named Bokkel and scolds her for taking too long with her reports. She keeps apologizing while he bullies her without pause, and she tries to explain that the numbers do not match. But he hits her with the paper stack and tells her to keep working until they do. After that, she stays up all night and finally figures out the mistake. It turns out the mismatched numbers were caused by her senior's sloppy work. While reminding herself she has to get up early tomorrow, her stomach growls loudly. She becomes sad on realizing she had no lunch or dinner, and now all the restaurants are closed. Just then, she remembers a new place that opened recently, but by the time she reaches it, she sees Aetlier outside getting ready to close and loses all hope. However, Aetlier notices her and brings her inside to request Dennis to serve one last customer before shutting down. Hearing her speak up for someone, Vivia is surprised. Henrietta says it could not hurt, so Dennis welcomes the girl and asks her to choose a dish. After taking a seat, Bokkel orders the daily special. While Dennis prepares it, she quietly watches Henrietta and Vivia chatting at the counter. Seeing them have fun together, she starts to envy the nice mood. Because her life is only work all day, she has no friends, and she never gets real time off. So she thinks about starting her social life in the restaurant. A few minutes later, Dennis serves her food and Bokkel blankly stares at the plate because it looks incredible. He tells her to eat before it gets cold, so she dips it in sauce and takes her first bite. Her eyes sparkle, and she says she has never tasted anything like it in her life. Hearing that, Henrietta smiles and says everything Dennis makes is delicious. She starts listing the best dishes she has tried, and Vivia is surprised by how many she knows. So Henrietta proudly says she is the restaurant's first customer. Dennis makes the correction that she is also the first moocher who got too comfortable just because he lets her pay later. He tells her to get a job already, and she fires back that Vivia does not have one either. Watching them argue makes Bokkel laugh out of nowhere, and Dennis says sorry for the disturbance. But just then, everyone freezes as Bokkel suddenly starts crying. In her mind, she thinks it is amazing that a place like this with kind people and amazing food exists. Yet all she gets is insults and long nights, and every morning, she wakes up wishing she could just put an end to it all. Just then, she remembers her childhood when she amazed her family with her magic skills, so they saved up for years for her to leave the village and become a wizard they could be proud of. Back then, the headmaster at her school was so impressed, she even offered Bokkel a job there. But Bokkel wanted to earn real money from adventuring to send back home, so she joined the strongest guild in town. Back in the present, Henrietta notices Bokkel leaving and wonders if she is alright. Vivia says she works for the Night Mist Troop, the same guild that sent him on the impossible mission. He says he only saw her once, but her treatment there was very concerning. Hearing that, Henrietta asks Dennis if he can do something about it, and Vivia agrees. But Dennis says he is just a cook. His job is to feed people, and this is a problem the girl has to face herself. The next morning, Bokkel snoozes her alarm at 3 and curls up in bed. She did not sleep all night, and now she can barely move. As she worries about being late, she dozes off again. 2 hours pass, so she gets ready quickly. She rushes downstairs and apologizes to her team as a man scolds her for being shameless enough to make her seniors wait. With that, they leave for the dungeon. There, the man gets knocked down by a wolf monster, but just before it slashes his face, Bokkel casts wind magic and blasts it away. However, instead of thanking her, he shoves her and stares menacingly. Later that evening, his words echo in her mind because he twisted the story, saying she tried to embarrass him and steal credit for the kill, and when she tried to explain, they forced her to apologize and called her unworthy of the party. Meanwhile, Henrietta and Vivia are walking nearby, chatting about food and jobs. Vivia suddenly notices Bokkel walking alone with a strange look on her face, so the two follow her quietly to a tower where Vivia realizes she is serious about jumping. At that moment, Bokkel thinks life is no longer worth living, and one step will bring it to an end. Right after she jumps off, Henrietta sprints forward and manages to grab her mid-fall. Vivia casts palm below to soften the landing. At the same time, Dennis is deep in thought when Aetlier walks past with no clothes on. She casually asks if they are out of towels. He tells her it is not okay to walk around like that just because they are out. He rushes inside to find one. Just then, Henrietta walks in with Bokkel on her back. Vivia is disturbed. He asks why Aetlier has no clothes on and wonders if it is some shameless business tactic. He yells at her to get dressed, but she insists she will not wear anything until she dries off properly. Hearing Henrietta call him again, Dennis turns to scold her, but he stops when he sees Bockel passed out on her shoulder. Later, Dennis says it was bound to happen because she is the kind of honest person who keeps piling up work until her heart gives out. And Vivia quickly jokes that Henrietta will not be having that problem anytime soon. Dennis finds it a little disturbing how well they are getting along. As Aetlier keeps watch over the girl, Vivia asks how they can solve her problem. So Dennis decides to talk with the Night Mist troop about it. A few hours later, the captain of Night Mist comes over and apologizes to Dennis for the trouble Bockel caused. But Dennis says he should also say sorry for beating up 2 of his guys. The man introduces himself as Hopper, captain of the Night Mist party, and Dennis just tells him he runs a restaurant. From there, Hopper quickly shifts to business and Dennis learns the man is far stronger than normal adventurers at level 51, as expected from the top party in town. When Hopper brings up Bockel, Dennis explains she is resting in bed and clearly in no shape to be working. He asks nicely if they will let her go and allow her to rest, but Hopper refuses and says they have full custody of her. His lackey throws a contract on the table, and after Dennis reads it, he gets angry and calls it awful because they dumped too much work on one person. Hopper replies that this is just how they operate, but Dennis argues that adventurers should be free to leave a party. Hopper tells him to mind his own business, which fires Dennis up so much that he starts yelling at them for sucking Bockel dry like slave masters. The accusation angers Hopper so much that he crushes a mug with his bare hands, making Vivia and Henrietta terrified. After that, the captain says their party is the strongest in town, so they are the law here. He demands that Dennis hand over Bockel right now, and says this is the last time he will ask nicely. Meanwhile, upstairs, Bockel is curled up in bed, wishing she had never been saved. Suddenly, Aetlier speaks up and tells her she is free to die if that is her choice, and says she once thought of choosing death too, when everything precious to her was taken, and she was sold as a slave. She was consumed by darkness and gave up hope. But after that, something good happened to her and changed her life. In the end, Aetlier tells Bockel to eat some delicious food first, and if she still feels the same after that, then maybe death is the only path left for her. But she says she would be happier if Bockel chooses to keep living. Back downstairs, Dennis asks if Hopper thinks he is some kind of king or big deal. The man just smiles and says the strongest party in a dungeon town basically owns it, because no one else can take them down. He even brings up Silver Wing as an example. But Dennis argues that Silver Wing is nothing like their scummy crew. Hopper insists the only difference is that Silver Wing controls nobles and royals while they control a small town. Then, he calls Dennis's restaurant a shabby place that would burn down easily. And when Dennis asks if that is a threat, Hopper just laughs and says no one would care if a worthless little restaurant burned down. In frustration, Dennis looks ready to punch the man. But just then, a customer walks in. With a bright smile, Katie says his restaurant looks great and has a cozy feel, just the way he likes. Dennis apologizes and tells her he is busy with something serious, but that ticks her off. She says she came all this way just to see him, and asks if he is not even going to make her dinner. At that moment, Hopper's jaw drops when he spots the crimson hair and Silver Wing symbol on her coat. He blurts out her nickname, but Katie is offended at the old man casually throwing around her title like that. Then she turns back to Dennis and keeps asking for dinner, but he tells her to wait at the counter until his talk is finished, making her pout. Dennis turns back to Hopper to say again that he does not want to fight, and asks if there is any way to let Bockel leave the troop peacefully. Before Hopper can answer, Katie yells that she wants to take the cute blue-haired girl, but Dennis corrects her that he is a boy. In his confusion, Vivia asks if she is Silver Wing's vice captain and how she knows Dennis. Katie is surprised that he never told them, and before Dennis can stop her, she casually announces that he used to be part of Silver Wing and was her best partner. Hearing that, everyone in the room is stunned, and Hopper starts shaking as he realizes he nearly made enemies with the wrong guy. When his lackey asks what to do, Hopper quickly says to burn the contract, says Bockel is free to leave the party, and then rushes out of the place, wishing her a quick recovery. After they leave, Katie says she didn't like their attitude one bit, especially since they messed with her Dennis, but Dennis reminds her he does not belong to her. Katie suggests that she could get the trash kicked out of the kingdom, and while Dennis is thankful, he also warns her not to get carried away just because she has power. That annoys her a little, but his kind heart is also what she likes most about him. While Henrietta and Vivia quietly stare, Dennis asks Katie what she wants to eat. That's when Aetlier shows up with Bockel and requests a daily special. Katie also orders the same and starts digging in. As Bockel sits and silently watches her, Dennis tells her to eat before it gets cold. And after the first bite, she scarfs it down fast so adorably that it makes everyone at the table smile. The next day at the Silver Wing HQ, Katie walks in and hears the others talking about how the captain has been in a bad mood lately since the party has been struggling with new quests. Just then, she bumps into Vigo, who clearly looks annoyed. Suddenly, he tells the two nearby members to leave and quickly asks Katie what business she had meeting Dennis, which he heard from a little bird. Katie jokes that his little birdie is pretty fast, and then says she only went to eat Dennis's food after a long time. But in reality, after enjoying the daily special, Katie invited Dennis to return to Silver Wing because the team is falling apart without him. He made it clear he has no plans of coming back, even when she told him that things have been rough for Vigo and the others without his support.